Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, back again. And do let us know if you can see this feedback once again. And it happens. Nevertheless, apologize for that. Ito, Rocco, and Bula Bulavanaka, thank you for that. Just quickly, give me a second. I will just. Sorry about apologies as it happens. The packets are on the way. The parcels on the way, and I think the delivery is an issue here today. And apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's to do with the pandemic, and everybody's trying very hard to actually being on the internet. So I'd like to definitely apologize for that. Okay, so let's just continue with our interview with Tupou, and let's just get ahead, Tupou. What do you reckon, Tupou? We start where we were, or basically just go along with what we have, and it just happens. And we are back and clear, so it's pretty good. Thank you, Tupou, for bearing with me at the moment. And I don't know. Technology is such that it could be good, it could be bad the next minute, eh?
No comment.
Yes, no comment. I hope we haven't been sabotaged. We haven't been sabotaged in any way. Someone is not asking, or causing any troubles with us. So back where we were, ladies and gentlemen, apologies for that. Do share this feed amongst your family and friends quickly. And nevertheless, it'll be going on the YouTube as well as on Facebook at a late after this interview. So where were we, Tupou, before we just got bombarded?
You just started asking me about politics
yes.
in Fiji.
Yes, how things went in Fiji. Now, the question I would like to ask you is, where would you like to take Fiji in the next... where would you want to see Fiji in the next couple of years, 10 years or so?
Well, in the last campaign, we made it very clear that we wanted to implement policies that will get Fiji to where Australia and New Zealand is in terms of being a liberal democracy.
Okay.
We firmly believe that, the foundation has to be right.
Mm-hmm.
You can't build on quicksand. You gotta have strong foundations, and over centuries, liberal democracies have shown themselves to be the best form of government going. It's not perfect, but who in Fiji can complain about the foundations that Australia and New Zealand has? It has many Fijians that have gone there in search of a better life. So that's what we want to recreate here.
So the love for Labour, but the development is for Liberal, I would say. Yeah. So you're gonna mix both of the policies.
A bit of centrist leaning. Gone are the hard left days of me.
Well, which of the parliament, the parties at the moment do you think are following the Liberal Party, and which one do you think, roughly, ascertain which one's following the Labour Party, sort of a ruling in Fiji, like the Labour style and the Liberal style as we have in Australia?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in most countries the big divisions are really between liberal policies and conservative policies, conservative politics.
Yeah.
So I'd say that the opposition falls on the conservative side of politics, and the government, Fiji First Party, falls on the liberal side of politics, and they did start off taking the votes and the voters from the Fiji Labour Party, which is the home of liberal politics in this country. It was when it began, and that's how it won 2 elections. But then come the 2006 military intervention and the party that came out of that, most of the voters, because Mr. Chowdhury, collaborated in 2006, most of his own supporters say that that's how his party lost their votes, and they went over to the Fiji First Party. So the liberal voters, as it were, those with the liberal thinking and wanted a more progressive society, left that base and moved over to Fiji first. So that's where the divide is, and what else can I say? We have those liberal and conservative divide here as well.
So, from the last 20 years, do you think politics is getting better in Fiji? Or do you think it's going back? But, I mean, if you're looking at the politics of the 80s in Fiji, do you think it's getting better or it's getting worse?
I think most Fijians would be hard pressed to say that what existed before, in terms of no intervention of armed interventions into the political life of Fiji, was different. Then we had what happened in 1987, which was repeated in 2000 and repeated in 2006. But since it's ironic that most of my detractors usually say that I don't get over 1987, but they can't get over themselves 2006. I have long, forgotten about 1987 and 2000, but they can't seem to get over 2006. And the problem with their thinking is, they want us all to be in denial. They don't want to talk about the hard issues. What happened in 2006 didn't come out of the blue. It's a continuation of what started in 1987. Those who don't like 2006 say, 2006 stands on its own and it's to be blamed for everything that's doomed and gloom in this country. They don't like to acknowledge that what they supported in 2000 and 1987 contributed, was the biggest contributing factor to what happened in 2006. If they can accept that, then it'll be much easier for the country to move forward. And the fact of the matter is, we've had a general election, and at law param, talking about law of revolutions, and this was work that I did in constitutional law really before I moved away more into politics and away from the law. It's very clear that military interventions are unlawful, and in 2009 the Court of Appeal ruled that the 97 Constitution was still alive. However, the law also says that once a majority of the people, there are two things to be satisfied by those who take power by force. One is that they're in effective control of the country, and in 2009, no one would doubt that, even back then. The second part, which they didn't have, was the majority, the backing of the majority of Fiji. And usually elections are an indication of that kind of support. And the Fiji First Party has won 2 elections now. So, yeah, I think people need to get with the program.
It's hearing from you, because I wasn't there in Fiji during those 2 sessions that you mentioned. It seems to me that you are very much taken back. It is still very fresh in your memory, and I think those things are still pursuing to some extent, based on your what you've just said. Are you still worried? Are you still worried?
No, Param, just in one of the big newspapers the other day, there was a young youth activist who was talking about what he went through in 2006, that he was tortured.
Wow.
And people are still talking about it. It's very live issue to families, and we all know that torture and all of that happened in 2000 and in 1987.
Okay.
But the problem with the people who deposed in 2006 is only their torture is legitimate. The torture of 2000 and 1987 to them, get over it.
Okay.
How would they feel if we turned around and said, why don't you get over it? It's not a nice thing to say.
True. They must look at everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The country needs to look at it a bit more, but onto my liberal side of politics, I'm like, okay, we've had all that drama and we've had elections. Okay, so let's move forward.
Let's move forward
Yeah. The time to stop usurpation has long passed. We're just wasting time.
Yes.
Yeah, and wasting people's lives. We need to move forward.
Do you think the current government is moving forward?
I think it's trying.
Okay.
And they're not stupid, Baron. They need votes.
Yes.
They need to please the electorate. They've seen democracy in action in 2018. 2014, sure. They
Yes.
were the incumbent
Yes.
and had, a great support from the electorate. But we saw the figures in 2018. That fell off. Now,
Yes.
naturally, in a normal democracy, when the government loses votes, it goes to the opposing side.
Of course.
But almost a third of the country, that the votes we can see pulled off from Fiji First, refused to go to the other side. And
So
this is
they
what
didn't vote, or did they vote? What happened to
They
that?
didn't vote. They
Oh my
didn't
goodness.
vote.
What
And
percentage
this
was
is
that?
About 28%. The
So that
official
tells-
figures from the elections office will show that.
So this tells me that the people are getting sick and tired of it. They're saying, bah, bah. And, it's too-
Karen, that's why I left in 2016. I left the current opposition parties because they decided to bring back the cause of all the problems. When
Okay,
they brought back international, I was like, are you kidding me? We're trying to be an alternative. You say that the current prime minister is a problem, and we are going to go back and get the original problem. I mean, it's just not logical, I was like, oh, well, good luck to you. I don't think this is going to work. And the figures in 2018 showed that very well. The votes that come out from the government that should have gone to the opposition refused to vote.
Now, Tupou, you had a good session on the 2014 election. Obviously, you retained your seat over there, I believe. What happened during 2014 and 18 and you decided to opt out? What happened over there?
Well, I think I just went over that. There were internal divisions, and they decided they were going to, from my point of view, do unlawful things to remove the sitting leader and replace her with the original problem in this country.
Aha, okay.
And I thought, why on earth, when the opinion polls show for the first time that the opposition got bigger numbers than the government for the first time ever in that June 2016. But,
So let me reiterate that by saying, if I can understand, you don't have to say yes or no if you don't have to agree. But what my understanding would be, the problem was in 2018, the reason for you leaving would then probably be, the problem I could see was bringing back the 1987 problem, which was the coup leader then leading or coming into leading the Sodelpa party. Now, he has since then resigned, but in the grapevine, I've actually heard some news that he's actually forming another party.
Yeah, they've put in their application to the elections office to establish another party. But
Totally separate.
None of this would have happened if in 2016 the Sodelpa party and the NFP made a firm decision. They could have told him in a very nice way. You've done your part, thank you very much. You've reached the heights of political leadership. Now it's a turn for the new generation, and we actually have a sitting leader, and we will have a chance of winning the next election. Could you stand outside in the wings somewhere? But instead of saying that, they rolled out the red carpet.
Okay.
No, I was not going to be part of their shenanigans.
Very interestingly, you said that, and and amazingly, because last night I was drafting questions that I'm going to be putting that to you, and behold, my question would be, hey, what would be the age? Okay, there should be an age limit, like 55 is the retirement age. Go back, you don't have any job. what should be the retirement age for politicians to enter politics or to stay in politics? There should be an age group. You can't be 65 coming into election. You've lost everything that's happening in the world, the new changes that are coming. You can't adapt to the new changes. You go back to the old changes. Hey, come on. There should be an age group. What do you think of that?
I am not going to be ageist, Param. Everyone, every human being has a contribution to make, and we have, older people have a lot of wisdom to share. But
as you said, the wisdom is good if you're at the back bench, but not in the leading party.
Exactly. In my own party, I've always told the members, if we ever win an election, a prime minister should not do more than 2 terms.
Lovely.
But having said that, in terms of continuity and stability, the 3rd term, that prime minister should just be a cabinet minister.
Yes,
and
of course.
In the 4th term, that cabinet minister should go back to the backbench. So
very
that,
interesting.
Voters see that they're still there, but
yes.
Peaceful, stable transition.
Exactly. Basically that was my question. Was there would have been an age group where I should say that there should be an age. I know you said you want to be ageist, but there should be an age, because what happens is people mature, they have wisdom, but then again the new changes in the world is very hard to adapt, and people do not adapt to the changes, and that is the biggest, I think, one thing that should actually come into Fiji, that there should be a limit where you say, okay, as you said. And then once again, that policy may be stolen again.
Well,
or that idea,
taken,
for that
matter. It'll be very good. If it's taken, it'll be very good. But I don't. We'll see how that goes. But I would, if for our own situation, if we were to be on a winning streak and we've had served 2 terms in power and we win a 3rd term, I certainly wouldn't see myself as Prime Minister in the 3rd term. I'll go back to Cabinet and then go back to the backbench, just so that our voters and supporters can see that whoever was Prime Minister is still there. But it's a smooth going
transition.
Out.
Yes, and goodbye.
And
yes, of course.
Yes.
Go back to the retirement, into the...
Exactly.
Yes.
Life and
enjoy life and enjoy retirement.
Drama.
Yes, of course. It should be.
But
yes, the drama.
We have in this country,
the drama is coming back. Well, it started with action, and then the drama is all coming back, of course. So as I always say to everybody, that I'd like to put it into a film, and then sometimes when you're watching all these things, there's always drama and romance, but in Fiji, the drama always seems to be continuing. There has to be some sort of a conflict, that otherwise the movie's not going to finish, and there's no retirement happening in Fiji, it looks like. Nevertheless, that's going to happen, and it will always happen. So there's a good reason for you, I suppose, that you are, from your side, that you actually... Someone actually did ask a question that why did you leave NFP, and I think that you've answered that well. Now, what do you think of the current electoral system in Fiji?
I think it's fairer that one person, one vote, and we have to commend Fiji First, for that. That this system is much fairer, that everyone's vote counts. Under the old systems, I can say for the Seru and Awasa open seat, which I'm very familiar with, there were 19,000 voters to vote for the Seru and Awasa open seat. But in some constituency, the voters were only 3,000 for one seat, or 5,000. Now, how is that equal? So, it's good. One person, one vote, fair across the board.
Okay.
I understand why we had the old system, because it was building the nation, trying to encourage nation building, and the different communities, that there be certain certain seats reserved for different communities. I understand that, but I think now, this modern world, and we are all Fijians, it's good. One person, one vote. I support it.
That's good. Now, there has been a lot of hoo-ha. For me to state that it's a lot of hoo-ha around the social internet and social world out there, that a lot of noises are being made regarding Bill 17. Could you explain, what's going on over there? What according to you, as per your information, okay? I want to hear from you. What is your what are the pros and what are the cons of Bill 17? There's a lot of information out there that could be misleading. What are your views? What do you think is good and what do you think is bad?
Well, the consensus seems to be that the law itself, there's no problem,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the consultation issue.
Mm.
Because the biggest complaint, as it were, is that the landowner units were not consulted before this amendment came.
Okay.
And my explanation to that is consultations between the Tauke and the government is almost like 24/7, Parent, because
Okay,
we
it's
have
happening.
a separate system of governance.
Mm-hmm.
The Tauke in Fiji have two governments, not one. We have two governments.
Okay.
The one government is our traditional government, which goes through the Tikina Council and the Provincial Council. That's under the Ministry of Tauke Affairs. And by convention, the Prime Minister is the minister for that. Always the minister for that. The only time, one of the times that I know that the not Minister for Tauke Affairs was after the 1999 elections. The leader of the Fijian Association Party, my mother, was Minister for Tauke Affairs and Deputy Prime Minister, and she was the Minister for that. But Deputy Prime Minister, it still got the same level. And of course, that was the government being sensitive, not to have non-Tauke as head of that traditional government. So, Prime Minister Charlie was happy not to be burdened by that extra government that he, leave that to the Tauke to sort out while he concentrates on national government. So we have this separate system, Param, and it starts from what is called a Bosni Koro. That's where all the issues in the village are brought. Turani Koro, who's a government employee now, goes around and they discuss every issue within the village is discussed there.
Okay.
I don't see why landowner units can't bring up whatever complaints they have about ITLTB, anything to do with Tauke land and Tauke issues.
Yep.
That's where it's brought up. Then it's taken up to the Tikina Council, which is the district, and from there it's taken to the Provincial Council. And
So the transparency is there.
And it's a direct line to the Prime Minister, who's the minister.
Okay.
So through that stream, the Prime Minister, who's the head of government, would hear the complaints that are coming. And what is the job, Param, of an elected government? When they hear complaints, what is their job?
Okay.
Tell me.
Yes.
Is their job to sit on their hands and waste government money to go for another round of consultation? When they are already bombarded with complaints for years? These complaints, Param, about administrative burden, the high cost of poundage landowner units don't want to pay anymore, and backlog is not faced by the big investors, as Mr. Richard Naidu has clearly set out, because they come with millions and they're accountants and lawyers. They don't worry about backlog and all of those things. Mr. Naidu says within a week they get their consent. It's the ordinary Fijians of all communities, and now more Tauke would be getting leases. They're the ones who complain about backlog. And this is from my experience representing landowner units.
Okay.
So and these complaints, I heard it for a few years while I was representing landowner units. And they would say, yes, they've taken it up all the way. So what does a government do? I mean, Parent, if I was the elected Prime Minister and Minister for Fijian Affairs and I'm hearing these complaints for years, I'm going to, I direct the civil servants in my ministry, work with the Attorney General's chambers, make the necessary amendments to get rid of this problem. I'm tired of going out there to the provinces and hearing all these complaints. I mean, it's just a normal function of government. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing my job. And if I'm not doing my job, next time I go to the Provincial Council or I visit one province or one Tikina, they will not be happy with me. they're not happy means no votes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just it's just, but Param, the issue here is we have politicians in this country who are very used to this, very used to this, especially since 1987. They like to whip up nonsense and divide communities along racial lines, cause drama, whatnot, get arrested to whip up support for their, and they do this because they have no policy. So they have to put on the show. The Christian scripture, Param, since today is Sunday, says empty vessels make a lot of noise.
Yes, of course it does.
And we see this from the opposition. They're always on TikTok. They want to get arrested all the time. They want to whip up emotion on land, native land, when there is no issue. But they have to. Empty vessels. They are empty of policy. No competence. They shouldn't be there. They're just wasting everyone's time.
So you think the Bill 17 that has come in force is something looking forward for Fiji? Something good for Fiji?
I absolutely believe that it will be good for Tauke who have already got leases and they want to take further mortgage or do whatever it is with their leases without the red tape. The red tape there. And at the end of the day, Param, a lease is it's for determined time.
Yes. It could be done by a lawyer, I suppose. You don't have to go to the big junction.
And the landowning units, they already gave their consent. I mean, the ITLTB has already given its consent to the lease.
Okay.
So within that lease, yesterday I saw something written, a newspaper article saying that it seems that the changes were made to favor profit over something. And I thought to myself, Param, what universe do these people live on? How disconnected are they from this world today? That okay want progress, especially economic progress,
yes,
and they want profit, and the Tauke community needs profit more than any other community. Yes. So why? I just it's either they see it as idyllic that all of us Tauke just go back and live in the villages, fish, hunt together, and don't earn any money in the modern economy.
And I don't think that's
yeah, Param. They're just I just don't understand these people.
That's
with all that's what they want.
That's what I always say, that going back to what I just said earlier, that the age is there should be an age group where people should be adapting to the new changes in the world, in the economy as well as politics. Because people like you, for example, if you are well versed on the economy and the politics which is happening around the globe, who study international law and international politics, you bring that, you make some sort of a policy for the current situation. So I think, I'm not gunning to anybody or, in any side, but I just think if I was in the situation as well, I would definitely have an age group by saying, look, as in America, someone stated that the presidents are only allowed 2 terms at the age of 70. So there should be some sort of an age group especially, and that you should be, as you said, go back in there, and enjoy. But going back to the land, there's so much land available. There's so many green pastures available.
Yes.
And why isn't it utilized? Why isn't it utilized at the moment? What's happening?
Well, I recall a friend used to whine to me and this went on for a long time. Every time we'd have lunch or go some, would say to me, it's taking my father and our clan so long to get a consent to one lease. These are
how long would that be? 6 months, 12 months?
More.
Oh my.
So even 18 months after the first time it was mentioned, and it was mentioned again, we went to lunch. I just don't know why it's taking so long to get this consent to. I'm like thinking, they are landowners themselves, and they're trying to do something, and they're waiting. And then articles are written by academics in Suva talking about, how bad this amendment is because it seems to put profit above, I don't know what else, what was the thing, but Toki themselves want profit, and the Toki community needs profit, that cultural profit, more than any other community in this country, and we have a majority. So I don't understand. Like I say, Param, I think some of these people, they have this an idyllic version of all of us Toki if we just all went back to the village and just fish and eat on subsistence level, no profit. But
I got you.
they will whine about it at elections. Why has the government not done this? The Turkey are getting poorer and poorer in the modern economy. But the government comes up with policies and they come up with racist or illogical and outdated things. I wish they'd just keep quiet, Param. There's just no logic in what they say.
So do you think there should be a policy there in regards to bringing up racism, because it has been pursuing back for so long now, since the 87. It has actually been bombarded and been publicized heavily. And I think there should be a stop to it. There should be some sort of a law passed that should not be used as a means of trying to advocate to people that vote for us. I think that should be very important, because being either Fijian or an Indian or any other nationality born in Fiji living in there should be zero actually racism in there. I mean, if you look at the ground roots, there is nothing.
Yes, I agree. And there are laws already. There are laws against the incitement of that kind of thing. But you see, Param, there's a Fijian academic in San Francisco who gave a very good presentation on a live stream as well, Professor Rokole Kutu. And he was talking about this, that the Tauke own 90% of all lands in Fiji, but we do not have 90% of economic power or 90% of economic progress. We are far away from it.
And the question would be why?
And that, Param, is the job of an elected government, to come up with policies to progress the Tauke. Every government has come with policies to try and do this. But this section of politicians, Param, that I'm telling you about, the conservative ones, they think that only they can propose legislative amendments that will touch on land or whatnot, never mind the merits of progressing the Tauke. So to them, the Tauke can remain poor and remain backward so long as everything, the whole world stands still until they win elections. Like what they did in Momi, what was done in Momi, they did that for economic progress and nobody bat an eyelid. You didn't hear anyone in opposition going around saying, they didn't consult this, they didn't consult. No, nothing. But as soon as another side of politics proposes legislative amendments to do the same thing, to respond to Tauke complaints that come through that system of Tauke government, the sky is falling.
Well, there's an increasing number of settlements. Squatter settlements had increased 14% since January 2001 and 73% since 1996. Urban migration, unemployment and expiry of land leases, and the breakdown of nuclear and extended families. That's a very important factor. There's 73% since 1996. It's probably a higher number now. People are migrating to the urban area. Now, if you look at it, why? There's, as you said, 83% or so has been, there's green pastures out there, cattle farming, goat farming, planting crops. A lot of things could be implemented in there for export purpose, I believe.
Yes. It takes policy. Param, as you know, in Australia, that's what will happen. Tax concessions and the like, to encourage the Tauke to make use of the land.
Yes, of course. If you're sitting on it, make use of it.
Exactly.
Plant
it's
whatever.
For progress. It's for our progress. It's not, it's... No, this lot of conservative politicians, Param, for a long time, they, as the Prime Minister said in Parliament, they act like gatekeepers. They want to be gatekeepers. You can't talk about native land. You can't propose any legislative change
Mm-hmm.
if you're not on their side of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow only they can. But as you've quoted those figures, under their inferior incompetent management, people left in droves from the villages
Mm-hmm.
to come to the urban areas.
Yes.
If they were so competent and so good with their policies, many Toki would be back there and do things to get economic progress, which is very viable, you know. But that movement has happened because of their incompetent leadership in their time. They didn't come up with policies that did enough to progress the Toki, and now they're jumping up and down when another side of politics does it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just, that's why 28%, came away from one political party, dropped their votes from one party, but couldn't go and vote for them because they already know
Mm-hmm.
how useless that lot is.
So are you planning to bring back the whole party next election? That's if it happens next year?
Of course, every political party wants to contest the election, and
Mhm.
if we're in a position to, we will.
So you're bringing back the whole party again?
The whole party will contest the elections, but first we need to sort out some pending issues with the supervisor of elections,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll take it from there. But if all that is kosher, we will be contesting the elections.
Yes. What
And
is your...
Param, sorry, I just want to say on that note that this is, we were only registered 2.5 months, I think, or a bit more than that before the last
Yes.
elections. So, no one in their regiment, no party in the world has ever got into parliament after registration just so soon. I mean, so late into the game.
Mm.
But what we did when we registered was we already had our policies ready. That to us was far more important. And in the 2 months that we could go and do outreach, we said to the people, there may be 20 political parties. I think there were 6.
Mhm.
There were how many, you're saying there are too many political parties. But there are only 3 different positions
Mm.
in this contest. The Fiji First Party view, the Sodelpa view, which is backed by 4 other parties.
Mhm.
That's the reality of it, Barry. And
Okay.
our point of view, which is different from those 2.
Mm.
So, there may be 6 parties. There were only 3
That
points
have
of
different
view.
policies. Different
Yeah,
policies.
and I don't understand for the life of me why those other 4 parties, NFP, Unity, Freedom Party, and whatever other party is there, why they don't just join Sodelpa if they're so concerned about too many parties? Because, Barra, they agree on everything.
Okay, the policies are similar, same, basically.
They agree on everything. They sign letters together. They give press conferences together. It's so crazy. Why are they? They're the ones who are distorting the electoral system.
So they should join together, join the hands together and make one party.
Yeah. Why? But you know what they do, Barra?
Yeah.
There's 4 of them, 5 of them in one grouping, but they complain about the Hope Party, which is one on its own and different from them.
Okay.
Can you get the logic in that?
I can understand. Yes, of course. In any politics, it'll definitely happen. There will be always, guns fired at each other. If the policy, I believe the policies are good. The educated people will see the policies. And now, what do you think of the current government? As I've actually asked you before, do you think in this current crisis, which is COVID, is the current government doing well? What is your view on that?
I think they've done very well with the current crisis,
Mhm.
they've prioritized health,
Mm-hmm.
and they've really gone out of their way to prioritize health. Many have complained about the opening up of the economy. They thought it was too soon, but I think they made calculated decisions. And based on the health advice that they would have got. And the vaccination drive has been just awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Rachel Pillay and the Ministry of Health Dr. Fong and his team, everyone in the Ministry of Health, the doctors, the nurses, the radiologists, the cleaners, the orderlies, everybody, the military who's assisting them, the police, they've all done an excellent job and in terms of the economy, the government is really going out of its way as well with deficit spending, and the opposition is jumping up and down saying, oh, our deficit is going up and up and up.
With the current situation.
But we did put out a policy statement on the matter last year in March, where we encouraged the government to carry on with deficit spending because it would be better for the economy long term. If we're going to be doing austerity, Baron, at that time, if we do austerity in this COVID-19 time, that means we're going to be cutting government costs here, there, and everywhere. The economy is going to be so bad by the time COVID goes that instead of dropping down, just 20%, the economy could drop down to 50 or 60% if we don't spend the money now. So, international research has shown that money has to be spent to keep the economy at some level that's easier to pick up once the disaster is gone, which is COVID-19.
Now, I'm just gonna proceed with the interview, but I've got two questions that I want to pick up for the forum, and one is John A. Ligavau. You agree with Fiji First? Why don't you join Fiji First?
Put it this way, the Fiji First Party has adopted many of our policies, but we have, many disagreements, and I don't think, every political party, Baron, requires to maintain a certain level of party discipline. You're gonna agree pretty much about 90% if you're really gonna keep it tight. On a lot of things, members and especially elected members of parliament. There is no way I could join up Fiji First Party and survive a month. I'd probably be sacked in the first week or second week. Yes,
for being outspoken.
We will have differences.
Yeah.
I've been outspoken and good try, Johnny Lingago. First of all, try and you see what I mean, Barry?
Yes, people, I do.
They have 5 parties there agreeing on one. They can sign the same statement. They give the same press conference. They can do it. It's quite okay for them to be in 5 different parties. But for Fiji First to adopt our policies and for me to agree with how that's going, somehow I need to immediately join Fiji First. You see?
Yes.
I can hypocrisy.
I can see where you're coming from. What I believe would be if you got something interesting to point out, then you'll always be at loggerheads with the party you're in, because you could be an introvert. You'd be bringing new things. You'd be out there looking at what the current world is functioning and how it is functioning. So you could be a problem. As I said to you once again, going back to my question, the substitute I did was that there should be an age group. I'll still reiterate that all the time. Now, there's another question. Constitutionally, would your party constitution ever entertain a non-ITK as PM?
Why not? We'll endorse whoever is the most competent person to be Prime Minister. We just want the most competent person at policy to implement, to lead the team, to implement policies that will progress the whole country. But as I agree with Professor Rokolikutu on this issue, and I know other communities in this country completely agree with this sentiment, because they want the Tauke to progress economically, because they see it as a big factor in political stability. So when I say this, that we want the most competent Prime Minister, we don't care their race, what background they come from, whatever. So long as they know and can implement policy that will progress the country, but particular attention to the Tauke, we are very happy. We don't care about their background. And I think other communities will be very happy with that as well, in terms of giving particular attention to progress of the Tauke, because they see it as very important for political stability and camaraderie across the board.
As a politician, would you think one should be well versed about the world economics and the way it functions? Or do you think just, stay in the box and deal with your own problems and don't worry about what's happening outside the box?
Yeah, I think anyone who aspires to elected political leadership has to have a certain level of awareness of a lot of things going on around them in the country and the world. It's very important. And because ideas are everywhere, and if there are better ideas elsewhere that can help us to make progress, then yes, we should be
Mhm.
aware and we should try and implement it.
So, as you can see, you probably would have seen the budget of 2021-2022 budget stated out by the current ruling party. What are your views on that current budget, based on the current situation and looking at the deficit? Because I always hear a question saying Fiji has been sold to China, Fiji has been sold to China, and I think there's a certain amount of people, certain percentage of people. There could be that 30% that dropped out from voting, could be having a little bit of conspiracy going around the globe that Fiji is sold to China. Now, looking into the deficit part of it, what are your views on that?
Yeah, well, I've already said, Baron, that our party put out a policy statement on the economics of COVID 19, and we
Mhm.
encourage the government to deficit spend. Spend the money, borrow the money, spend it on the economy, on the people of Fiji, because we don't want the economy to be in a worse position. Because if you don't spend the money, the economy will be in a worse position by the time COVID 19 is gone.
Mhm.
And so the government, within the resources that are available, is doing just that.
So what you're saying, it
On the
fix
other
it now.
side, yeah, fix it now or spend the money now to hold the economy at some level that's not as bad as where it will be if you don't
Okay.
spend the money. And by the time COVID goes, you're going to be the
Yes.
headache, whichever
Because
government is in power.
because some people are like, why fix it when it's not broken kind of policy, and they just tread along. But I
Yeah.
think your policy would be fix it now, and then hopefully you can fix it later, and then just deal with it when it comes to the next situation. But fix the situation now. You mean like have a strong foot to the enemy lines now, which is COVID, which nobody knew. It came all of a
Yeah,
sudden. Now it's a bit
yeah.
unfortunate that it is actually circulated the way it is circulating. Is it going down in any form or manner? Is it sort of subsiding slowly, or is it going to take 12 months to 24 months to come back?
Well, I think the vaccination drive has been just excellent in Fiji. The latest numbers, I think, around 90% first shot
Mm-hmm.
and over 30% of the second shot. So
Mm-hmm.
Fiji is doing very well on the vaccination drive, and that will help a lot
Mm-hmm.
to when borders can reopen and all of that. But we're seeing examples from around the world, Baron, that it requires maybe a little bit more than that. This problem is it's worldwide. If an economy, Baron, like New South Wales,
Mm-hmm.
huge economy compared to Fiji,
Mm-hmm.
if your state can lock down and the premier looks stressed and worried and is getting bombarded at press conferences, I see this every day.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, New South Wales is like how many times the size of the Fijian economy?
8
So
times.
if that's the problem there, you can imagine.
Yes.
Fiji really should have been in a worse position.
Very
we
true.
haven't-
Very true.
Yeah. So when people jump up and down, I'm like, again, like you say, it's good to have knowledge of other places and make the relative comparison.
It's very
Yeah.
important, I think. Now, this question I'm going to ask you, it's kind of funny in a way, but I would like to support this question as well, support as well as ask on top of that, what she thinks about printing the money. I'll let you go first, then I'll come after that, as to what my understanding would that be on that.
Yeah. There is a legitimate, all the economists have told me that there is a legitimate policy thing about printing money, but
Yes.
it's just the way that the member of parliament came out with it to say, we just print money and top up the balances on
Mm-hmm.
FNPF, or just print money and we can do this. Printing money, of course, to anyone who has a basic understanding of that part of economics, means hyperinflation,
Yep.
and this has happened in Zimbabwe and other countries where where it has happened. It's been very bad. The money really has no value in those countries because it's been so inflated from the printing of money,
Mm-hmm.
and it loses its value.
Yes.
So I think a loaf of bread, somebody was saying, costs thousands of dollars in that currency or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want that in Fiji.
Could it be?
Yeah.
Could it be printing money means that borrowing money?
Well, she should have said borrowing money.
Because I was trying to read it in the question, and I saw that, and it was actually made a big story out of it. But then I went and did a little bit of research, and I didn't actually ask her. I should have asked her that perhaps she meant borrowing money, because the Reserve Bank of Fiji cannot definitely print money. They have to borrow money from the World Bank and or the other banks that the Fiji is currently borrowing from. And
Mind you, this is the same this is the same member of parliament that said that there was a liquidity issue in the country in 2019, and all the serious economists all came out and said no, there's no, independent of government. One big economist, I have a lot of time for him. He was on the Fiji Times front page, which is the opposition newspaper. I remember that front page where the economist says liquidity is not the issue. There's money there. It's investor confidence. So I think the member of parliament, she's very good at boosting morale of a certain section of the community, and that's good. That's important. But on serious issues like the economy and things like that, I think she should take more advice and caution before she speaks on it.
Now, what is your view on the current health system in Fiji? And I've been coming to Fiji every 6 months and having a look at it. What is your view, honest view on the current health system? Two things I actually bank heavily on any country is, or propagate, is the education and the health of any country. Well, the system that is in place at the moment, and I can see a lot of changes has been done in the education sector. But what about the health sector? Is Fiji progressing? What's happening with that?
I think even the government itself will admit that if they could give an extra billion to the health ministry every year, they would do it. If they could, they would do it. It should be a priority area. Yes, so there's a lot of room for improvement, Baron. But again, from what the Ministry of Health has done in this current crisis, you got to give it to them from whatever resources they have, and the personnel. I guess that's been a focus of investment over the years, and it's turned out to be very good. I did give a speech in Parliament in 2015 where I compared the money that was given annually to the Ministry of Health compared to another department of the government, which kept getting an increase while the Ministry of Health was getting a decrease. And I was all for rebalancing that. And of course, health and education will always be top priority should be to any government.
Okay.
There's a lot of room for improvement in terms of facilities, the actual buildings and the facilities, but the personnel, I don't think many can complain about them. They have just done an outstanding job in this current crisis.
And as you said, a million or a billion would definitely be nice to the health system of Fiji. So because there's so many people out there, there's so many NCDs out there, non-communicable diseases, which is pretty heavy in Fiji, which is a factor, and which is a very important factor.
Yeah, and while we still Sorry, Karim, while we're
Yeah.
still on the issue, I just want to publicly acknowledge and thank
Yes.
the many groups out there that have done their bit in terms of supporting the
Controlling.
Ministry of Health with with supplies and what have you during this current crisis. I know there's a professional women's group. I think it's the women. There's a women's group that has been very prominent in supporting the Ministry of Health, and especially, I think it's the birthing clinics, if you like.
Yes.
They've been
Yes.
very
Yes.
instrumental, and that's very good on them. And even the Member of Parliament, Linda Tupou.
Yes. Yes. I've seen that she's doing something good over there. Yeah. She's getting some funds
so
organized.
yeah, and I really, and you gotta thank them. And there are some that I personally know of, some big business owners who've really gone out of their way, Param. They've given their facilities and their money and to help the Ministry of Health, and they do it in the background. They don't want any attention. They just spend. And I know 3 or 4 who have really done amazing things, and God bless them for helping the Ministry of Health in this time.
Yeah, Tupou is a politician. With the current, if you look at Fiji as a whole, if you look at, I always say think out of the box. Okay, go out of the box and look at Fiji, the way Fiji has been functioning, the way it is placed in any part of the world. Me being born in Fiji, brought up in Fiji, but now living here, but still got very much love and affection for Fiji. Now, if you're looking at Fiji, you see that the politicians, I believe, should work for the people of the country, for example. And are you more economy driven, or are you more people driven?
I see them together, Baron.
There has to be a difference. I think it's very hard to have a balance over there. You either it's very hard.
My own view, and I'm sure, and the policies of our party see them together. Like, the economy is for the people.
Yes.
Really, ultimately.
Yes.
I mean, if people are seeing us as just putting out all these policies for the economy to improve the economy, it's not just the economy for the economy's sake. It's the economy serves a purpose.
Yes.
I mean, how can we help people if we don't have a good economy?
Okay, so going forward to the next question is, how do you think is this current government doing with this? Is this economy driven or people driven? Are they seeing more of the economy, or are they more driven towards building up the economy, or is it they're just saying let the people just follow along the economy?
Well,
it's a tough question, but I'm sorry to put you in the situation.
No. And I'm biased because I believe the general direction of our policy statement, especially through these currencies on the economy and deficit spending, was adopted by the government over what the opposition parties, other non-government parties, they were pressing per parent. They were pressing for government cuts, cuts to services, cuts to government spending, and cuts to civil servant pay. How that's going to help anybody, I just don't know.
It's going to be very hard.
I'm biased in that sense that I'm very happy that the government has decided to spend the money on the economy and on the people. I mean, that was one of our recommendations too. Please don't touch social welfare. If you can increase it, but don't decrease it. This is the worst time to decrease it. Just keep the spending. Keep spending on those things that are important, and that's for the people, Parrot. It's not for some, So
it's not for the government. They can actually.
No,
They have to find their own way, to bring that money in. Well, looking at the current situation in Fiji, COVID is just hitting everywhere, and the country is going to have to borrow more money as far as to facilitate a lot of things out there. I can imagine they're in a dire straits. I'd like to call them, or they must be having meetings, enormous amounts of meetings daily to see how they can encounter this and open the, as I said, the Bulla bubble, which is still I don't see it happening anytime soon. And you can't even come to Australia, so it's kind of hard at the moment. And now, what's your view on the vaccine there, Tupou? There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that the vaccine is not good, the vaccination is going to do this and that. What is your view to the people that may be watching this on vaccine?
There was a problem, I think, not long ago when these fake news were flying around and conspiracy theories. But I'm glad the community kind of rallied at some point and to push the vaccination message along. And it's good. I mean, political leaders from all the other parties as well then came on board and started pushing for vaccination. And the vaccination, as I've said, apparently the rates are very high now and very good and continue. We encourage Fijians, if you haven't, please go and get the jab. It's very important that you do. Don't think, there was some news about, this vaccination is just trying to help the government to open the economy. That's silly. Forget about the government for a second. Think about your life and the life of your family. That should be clearly more important to you than government deficits and the like. So if you're trying to sort of propagate this idea that you're going to help the government, no. The government's not going to have an issue. The government will be here long after you and I die. So do yourself a favor and go and get vaccinated.
Because it'll just help your loved ones as well, and it'll bring the cost down of the country as far as medical bills, because a lot of bills will be piling up for those testing, because those testing facilities or things that cost money. First of all, the equipments, the reagents that are used for testing, those swabs or the PCR machines they are using, all those reagents that are using, it's costing a lot of money. It's maybe given
on that issue. Yes. And on that issue, can I just say that Australia and New Zealand, the EU, India, Japan, the traditional partners, the United States, they've really gone out of their way to help Fiji through the COVID crisis. And every Fijian is entirely grateful to them. We really are. And that's eased up. Yeah.
I just hope everybody understands that there's a lot of help. If you look at the remittances that are coming from overseas, from people overseas, somewhere around in millions of dollars in the last 6 months. Someone's quoted about $600 million within the last 6 months. So you can imagine a lot of help and outcry that has been poured, huge amount, and it plays a lot of important part in the economy of Fiji. And it's very interesting. Now, a little question I'd love to ask you. What do you have to say about China's relationship with Fiji?
To me, it's the relationship of any other country. But of course, as we know, China is the rising power. It's already up there, but rising still even more. Their sheer size, So, everybody is aware of the contest in the Pacific between the two big powers, China and the United States. And our policy on foreign affairs set out very clearly that China, like every other country, is welcome in Fiji, and the Chinese people are welcome here. Fiji is a very welcoming country, but at the end of the day, we emphasize our relationship with our traditional partners because we also share the ideals and the governance ideals, particularly, as I said, the liberal democracies. That's why we must make it very clear to all and sundry that that's the system of governance that we favor and we prefer. Even though we welcome everyone, that system of governance and from the traditional partners is the one that we favor.
Now, the Christianity followage is quite big in Fiji. And now, without saying that that I am racist in any way, I'm not. But or if I'm talking about religion, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. But it's a point I wanted to bring across that there are a lot of religious people in Fiji. I think from statistics, there's a lot of Christianity followers out there. Methodist and Catholics, they all come under one banner. But I believe also that there is talks that some people are saying that it is quoted somewhere in religious acts that vaccine is not good. Now, I have read the Bible as well, so I don't think it's quoted anywhere. I mean, people could prove me wrong if I'm not. According to my knowledge, it's not written anywhere that vaccines are bad for you. So I think that's some sort of circulation like this is probably a not good situation in Fiji. It's a really bad situation that should not pass on things like this. Don't you think so, Tupou?
Yes, I absolutely disagree with fake news and
Mm-hmm.
fake interpretations of, the scripture and whatever not, which some people like to spend their time doing. But I think, I have to be very upfront with you, Param. I'm not known for reading the Bible every day.
Not
Uh,
every day, yes.
I can't recall the last time I actually read the Bible, although many people who know me think that I should read the Bible. But I do remember the lessons from there,
Yes.
from childhood. And, and what I recall is the biggest lesson is to love thy neighbor. And I
Yes,
saw
yes.
a relative post that this morning or yesterday in relation to COVID-19 and the vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
Love thy neighbor. So if you love thy neighbor, meaning your family and your relatives and friends, do the right thing. Follow the health protocols, get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
But because you're actually, you're protecting them as much as you're protecting yourself. And if you don't do that, then you're not
Yes.
following the biggest commandment in the Bible.
You're not
Again,
loving thy neighbor, of course.
no, Param. And
Yes.
please, again, I'm going to put out my caveat there about don't quote me on the scripture. Oh, yeah.
So, COVID-19, nobody expected the way it is traveling around the world, the way it is enjoying
Yeah.
its cover up at the moment on the whole of this universe. This current Earth, as we called, and it's a big topic in any country, in any social media, in any friends sitting or any household at the moment. It is just the top of. It's the hero at the moment. It has affected a lot of people, especially our kids. It has impacted on the education at the moment, and those kids are in Fiji are home. How are they holding it? How are they doing it? Are they? I feel kind of sorry for them as to what's happening out there for any part of the world actually, but Fiji probably primarily we're talking about Fiji at the moment. The education system, how are they doing at the moment?
Param, I'm glad you brought this issue up. I really feel sorry for those who are under 18, those who
Mm.
can't get vaccinated. Because basically they will have to be locked up,
Yeah,
and
no
given
games,
extra protection.
no rugby.
Because even if we get vaccinated, we can carry the virus, as the studies have shown.
Yes,
We can
yes.
still carry it and pass it on. What the vaccination does is reduces the risk of us going to the hospital and dying.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, those under 18 can't. I really feel for them because, of course, they live with adults, so the
Mm-hmm.
risk is there every day. And adults who live with children, they have to take these extra precautions every day. Be
Mm.
extra careful. It places a lot of stress, I can imagine, on families and those with children.
Mental status, mental illness would probably be rising above the roof at the moment over there.
Yeah, it's and I've been reading the statistics from the groups that work in these areas, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just mental well-being, mental health is a really big issue. So
Mm.
is violence against women, which has risen a lot. They
Yes,
say
during this time.
because of during this time. So yeah, there are a lot of family stress and pressures out there.
Yeah, as in Australia, they say, the baby boom is happening during the COVID, which means everybody's producing because they are home. And a country like Fiji, someone has stated that the violence is increasing over there. So I hope and pray that things do subside,
Yeah.
at a given time. Now, someone's asked a question here saying, I don't know if it's directed to me, do you think that this vaccination will not have side effects later in life? And I think the technical question would that be to, we'll wait and see what the pundits say,
Yes.
because at the moment we don't know. We don't know, the whole world, not just we or us, the whole world don't know what COVID is going to do or how long it is going to stay within us, amongst us. I think there's a bit of a history over there. I would like to say to people, go back and read the history of the Spanish flu, which started in 1918. It's a bit of a history. Educate yourself with that, and it'll probably give you an overview as to how the virus is and what the viruses do and what importance it plays in our life. And I think that'll be an eye-opener to this current COVID status for those who would probably be...
Yes, correct, Param. I agree. I mean, we should always do our own reading. But one thing I always emphasize is we should listen to the doctors, the scientists. Yes. Because this is their bread and butter, their field of study. They've spent years in the field.
Studies, yes.
So, Param, it's like... I always, when people ask me about things when I go out and explain about policies and whatnot, I say to them, it's like when there's something wrong with your plumbing. When something wrong with the plumbing, you're gonna listen to the plumber. You're not gonna listen to the electrician.
Mm-hmm.
If something is wrong with the electrical wiring, you're gonna listen to the electrician and not listen to the plumber or the lawyer. The lawyer won't know anything about plumbing or electrical work.
Yes, very true.
It's a very simple concept. If we are going to war, we're going to listen to the soldiers.
Yes. We should
what they say, we just do what they say. Yeah. And so here we have a medical crisis. It's just common sense, Param. We just listen to the doctors.
Yes.
And the health professionals. They know when the nurses tell us do this, do that, the doctors say do this, do that, you just do it. It's also part of humility, apparently, not trying to be smart, smarter than people who are experts in this field. I'm always surprised because a lot of people who don't like me in the other political parties, they think that I'm a smart know-it-all. But when it comes to these issues, I just listen. But they can't seem to listen. Some of these people. So I just, it's good to do our own reading, but at the end of the day, if Dr. Fong is giving out, like for the Fiji audience, he's telling us these are the things that you must do to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Just listen and do it.
Just follow it. Don't be complacent.
Unless you want to do 10 years of study and, unless you want to do 10 years of whatever it is, medical study and do 20 years of experience, then you can talk to Dr. Fong. No, I don't think you're right. If you haven't done it, just shut up.
Yes. I think the whole world is working together on this, and they would be on the phone or there's some sort of a connection with the whole world as to what's happening out there as far as data is concerned, and what's happening out there as far as the crisis is concerned. So I'm pretty sure they would be well versed for it. Now, I got two more questions to go, and then would you like to take some questions from the forum, Tupou?
Whatever, I'm in your hands, Param.
Okay. Now, do you think the next election will happen next year?
The Fiji Elections Office has been putting out releases on how their preparation is going. So they're still preparing for next year, so I take that as a given. But I did read somewhere, I think I read somewhere that the leader of Sodelpa, Mr. Ngavoka, actually made a comment in Parliament not long ago that the election should be deferred till 2023.
Did he say why?
Recently, I didn't. Well, because of the ongoing crisis and all of that. It's difficult to get the message out and all. But recently, they've said that they've appointed their campaign director, so they're geared up for 2022. So maybe they've changed their mind since then.
Okay. Now, you as stated in Wiki that you have some of your policies have been used and implemented, and I think you should be commended for it. Hopefully, you should copyright it next time, that your policies don't get stolen or used by somebody else. Now, I don't know if I should ask you about something that, or any policy, if you want to, if you share a light on it, that would take you to the next election, and obviously into the winning position in the next election. Would you want to say and share it now, or you don't want to share it now, or refrain from being stolen?
No, we are working on it, Barrett. So,
Yes.
but most of what we put out in 2018, I mean, that's still the foundation for moving forward. And one of the things that we mentioned in it, mentioned in those policies in 2018, that the economy should diversify seriously into and take more interest in is agriculture, which is now happening in a big way.
Okay.
So we've got other policies. We'll add one or two or three more, but I think Fiji we can stand up in the next campaign and tell Fiji, look, when it comes to our policies, it's not how people are attacking us. We don't know what we're saying, what not. They've been adopted, they've been implemented. While the government has given its own flavor to the same general direction. So it's not something that that can be dismissed. And academics have written to me to say that they were just very impressed with the policy statements that we've put out. And it makes me very happy, and also my team that worked on that, the other 3-4 lawyers who had a hand in that, and others from other disciplines. I'm very happy with the work we did there.
Now, going against a big shark is always, you have to plan yourself how you're going to execute it. And with the government being in power for 2 consecutive terms, and doing a good job and having a very strong fold on the foundation at the moment of the current situation and the situation being post 2000, it is going to be very hard for any opposition or any other political party to withstand them. It's kind of like a David and Goliath situation we will be coming into. Now, hope you can get all your hope.
And you know who won, eh?
Yes, I know. And I just hope that your hope team that you are going to bring forward together are going to do well, and we wish you all the best with the hope.
Thank you.
And as I said, it's going to be a tough situation. It's your policies, and I can hopefully how you can embrace those policies and how people can embrace those policies would be an interesting challenge out there for you. Now, let me see if I got questions here. I'll bring this one up here. Fiji religious fanaticism on occasion has overwritten science and common sense. I think this is in respect to the understanding science here.
Yeah, that's correct.
Johnny is striking another question here. Johnny, is your party going to contest for all 52 seats or only for half of it?
Well, that's the aim. Now that the last time we had between 2 and 3 months to field the candidates. We fielded 28, but our main focus was policy. And again, Param, I have to say I'm very grateful to the team. We produced excellent policy statements. Now we have that. Now that's the focus, to contest the 52 seats. And we'll do our best.
Well, I think it's always good to have a balance in power. As I always say, that if 52 seats are there, and if it's a big division, then you can always choose which party and which policies you agree with, and you can join the left side or the right side, whichever.
Yes.
Now, do you think the House of Representatives, which were before, do you think they should come back the way it was functioning before? The Senate,
I've said, Param, in my earlier answer, I like the one person, one vote. And yes, I will always favor a bicameral, another house of review, a second house of review of, like 2 houses of parliament instead of one, who can object. No one is perfect, right?
True,
and
true.
then there are some things that may be missed in one house, and the next house, discusses
Could bring
it,
it forward.
improves the legislation before it's... So, Yeah, but at the moment, like I said, I like to live in the present and the real world. And reality is we've got a unilateral, there's one House of Parliament, and we'll work with that for the moment.
That's good. As a lawyer, can you explain democracy to a common man?
Uh,
As a lawyer.
One person, one vote, and the will of the majority prevails. So that means, if our party does not win elections, we shouldn't take it personally. It's just a contest of ideas. That's what politics in a democracy should be. And the party with the best policies, they're the ones that usually they're the ones that win. And if we are in the minority, we should just we accept it. Because if we don't accept it, that means let's say 10,000 of us think we are smarter than 300,000 who voted for another party. That's just wrong, So democracy is good in the sense that the one that gets the majority of votes, that means the majority of brains in the country have engaged themselves and well, that's the ideal, that they have engaged their brain and gone through the parties, the leaders, the different leaders, and what they stand for and the policies that they bring, and the majority, let's say 250,000 people, voters, have decided to vote for one party. That means that the 10,000, the 2,000, the 5,000, the 7,000 votes, we need to have the humility to accept that's what the majority of brains in the country have decided is good for Fiji, and wait for the next election. Yeah.
Yes, I think, also a lot of people are telling me that, there we go, Lucy has fired a question. Is Fiji a democratic country or still a republic?
We are a republic and with democratic institutions.
There you go.
We have elections. We have elections every 4 years, and people who say that that we are under dictatorship, but we have elections every 4. The only time we have dictatorship is when we have no elections. Elections, and people who are saying that there was some rigging in the last elections, I just keep repeating to them, Param, a very, very credible poll. This poll was done not by the Fiji Sun, which is pro-government. This poll was done in the Fiji Times, which is pro-opposition. And that poll almost accurately 100% predicted the last 2018 elections. And it came out, I think, 2 weeks before the last elections. And in that poll, there were 32% undecided. And guess what, Param, as I've said, the official figures showed 28% no vote. So they were still undecided.
Does Fiji have a freedom of speech?
I believe we do.
It is there, but it's the people it's their own thought, I believe.
The only speech that the law also says that there's certain things that we are not allowed to say. The law is very clear. If we say things to incite hatred of another community, or if we're trying to incite violence, or incite a revolution, or to bring the government down, and seditious speech. Although sedition is something that modern economies and modern countries really rarely use. It's there in the law, but they don't go there. But those laws remain. We can say whatever we like, so long as we don't start saying things. But of course, then there are other things like defamation. So the law also, there's a lot of law into that restricts speech. And it's not just a rule of dictatorship. It's actually in liberal democracies as well. We're not allowed to incite violence or incite disaffection between communities, and because otherwise there would be chaos. So even democracy speech is limited by the law.
Why
from those things we can say whatever we want.
Why do I hear this term dictatorship in Fiji? Why?
Look, Param, I mean, there is a section in there is a standing order in the parliamentary standing orders that allows the government to fast track legislation.
Yeah.
And the Fiji First Party has used that standing order with most legislation. You know, most, if it'd be rare that they don't use it. And the complaint has been that that they should take legislation through committees and all of that, and don't just rush it through.
Yes.
But that is part of the law that they can, and they do. Again, Param, it depends on the Prime Minister and how they want to run the government. Some Prime Ministers just lack patience. They just want to get on with the job. They don't want things to be carrying on forever in committees and then taking its time, because again, like the situation with the separate Tokay governance, the separate Fijian establishment, which is the Ministry of Tokay Affairs. As Prime Minister, you moving around the country, you will get a lot of feedback. When the Prime Minister used to move around, I used to read and I used to think, I don't know how this Prime Minister can enjoy all this work. If you're going to be moving around, all you'll be hearing is complaints, 24/7. This well used to work, it's no longer working, the water authority hasn't come and done this, that and the other, EFL has not done this, road works were supposed to be happening here, our bridge is broken, it hasn't been fixed. So, different personalities will react differently to these complaints.
Yes.
Some will just go back to Suva. Right, get cracking. This department, talk to the AG, we want a little change to be made to the laws. ASAP. Because we want this done. ASAP. I don't want to go back to that community. I don't want to hear the complaints anymore. Something has to, so it depends.
Yes.
Others will go back and say, a more patient Prime Minister may go back to Suva and call the minister. Call the minister to lunch. Hey, have a look into this issue. Can you look and tell your department? Then the minister will have meetings with their officials. And then it go on and on. As normal governance would happen in that. But like I said, different prime ministers, different personalities, different levels of patience. Some just want to get on with it. Let's just get on with it.
Let's get the action rolling, eh?
Yeah. And then, like I said, every 4 years,
the government changes.
The people get to determine.
Yes, that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand.
Whether they like this fast kind, what this Prime Minister is doing with this, standing order, just pushing the legislation through, or not going for another round of consultation after the the Tokay complaints have been addressed through legislation. So the Fijians then can choose again. They will like that style of governance, or they want someone who's more laid back and more consultative. Less drama. It's always in the hands of voters, and the voters choose. And then, like I said, if the majority has voted for a particular party, just wait for the next election, improve our argument, improve our policies, improve our candidates, improve whatever we need to improve to try and win. Otherwise, accept it that the majority have chosen this style of leadership. They're doing something right to be getting the votes.
Well, I think a lot of people are saying, a lot of people will say, that, it's a dictatorship, or it's running like this and it's running like that. I think it's very important when people do use certain terminologies, and it's very important because what happens is, if, for example, you don't want Fiji to be a communist country, do you? Nobody wants Fiji to be a communist country. So when you say dictatorship, and I think it's heading towards by saying it's communist. In other words, you're not saying it's communist, but you're saying it's dictatorship. And I think it's very important. And
Param, it's by just mentioning the word communism, you've taken me back to history textbooks. Even the Chinese Communist Party is not communist.
Yes, of course. So I think it's very important for people to understand what they're saying, and a little
Yeah.
knowledge is very bad, as I always say, and very important, especially in the line of politics. Very important as far as where the country's constitution is concerned, the people is concerned. As you said, the election is coming up. Make your decision. Don't like this government, throw them out. The other government comes, don't like it, change them. Advocate, preach, whatever the best is,
I know.
and just let them out. And if you don't like the policy, don't like it. But go on principles, and policies would probably be better if you're educated. I suppose the educated people would primarily look into the education. They would look at the policies. They would look. I have been talking to a lot of people, and so far as to say there are so many educated people in Fiji, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and it's
Yes.
nice to see. Nice to see that so many educated people out there, and I think it needs to change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the last question I would ask before we just sign off here: do you embrace young people in the parliament?
Oh, I think, well, it's the majority of our population, Para. They should be
Yes.
there. You know,
Yes.
younger people should be there, and yeah, we are all for it.
Mm-hmm.
A good balance, eh? But again, Param, I think the main contest in politics is ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So whichever party brings the best ideas through their policies, they should win. Doesn't matter the 80, 70 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
Policy should be the because that's what's going to be implemented in law, and it's going to be tested whether it works or not. If the policies are implemented and it's disastrous for the economy, well, Fijians can vote in 4 years. Oh, it was wrong to vote for you, and change it. Very simple, Par. No
Yes.
drama.
And I think there's a lot of dramas of certain things that people take up and then contemplate on. It's a special word like kaindia. People pick up on it. If you take a word and you split it up, you can take into many situations and utilize it. And I think it's just, it's not condoning. It's not in the dictionary of bad words. It's just a word. So I think a lot of words that are currently being used in political parties, political system, unless it's really defamation, unless it's really pointing out fingers, strictly saying you are bad, or in that context by saying, I'm gonna you, then it's different. But I think words is there to play. Words is there to be used. And I think in politics it's good to use words, isn't it? Provided it stays within the
I
mainframe.
think you mean there was that drama that recently popped up because the Prime Minister used the term.
Yes.
If you listen to what he was saying, he was saying what others would be saying
Yes.
about the AG.
Yeah.
And that is true. If you look into social media,
Yeah.
that's what people who don't like the AG are saying.
Yeah.
They use terms like India, Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
again. But Param, people in the other non-government parties, they think that the majority don't see this. They do. They read that and they know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they vote for Fiji first. That's why when they don't vote for Fiji first, they'd rather not vote. Because they see the kind of behavior that is coming from, the so-called alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
When they hear them talk of printing money like hyperinflation, the majority, the alarm bells go off. Like you said, we are very educated now. Or
Yeah.
if they hear, they see them and their trolls online defaming people, using, language that they don't like, and being racist, being anti-Muslim and all that. The majority are reading. They may be, but when they go to vote, they remember that. They'll think, maybe I don't like the current government, but when they look around at the alternatives who are in their face, but if I don't like this about the government, but at least there's some sort of stability there, there's no racism, whatever it is. Yeah, okay, we're gonna go with the flow, stick with what we have. Or, okay, maybe we won't vote for this government, but we can't vote for that lot. There is no way we're gonna cross
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
And 28% did. You know, Param, that's almost 180,000
yes.
voters who refused. Yeah.
Now, Tupou, in 2012, you represented Lesenia Garase. And obviously, he would have chosen
Yes.
you because you were a competent lawyer back then. Now, that's history, and that's going forward. Going forward into the future, we're dealing with situations now. I was intrigued by one thing that I quite didn't understand because I don't know what the current the law was when a lot of people were taken into questioning, like the opposition party primarily were taken into questioning. Now, as a lawyer, do you think I don't know? Did they break any law, or why would have been taken for questioning? Is it because they spoke something or some words they used which was against the media or the media laws, or what was it?
Well, I can only say what I read, and my
Yeah,
interpretation of what I read in the media
yeah,
is that they were suspected of, you know,
inciting.
causing ill feeling in the community and
Okay,
inciting.
okay.
You know, like spreading misinformation and fake news, or their
Mhm.
trolls were,
Yeah.
and they're responsible for it ultimately. Of trying because of the amendments to the land laws, you know,
Ah, okay.
trying to whip up the, like I was saying, yeah, there's a batch
Yeah.
of conservative politicians because
Yes.
they have no policies. They can't compete with the government or any other party they're in competition with. They
Mhm.
can't write down policy that they can appeal to. So the alternative is to make noise,
Mhm.
spread fake news, whatever, so that it makes them relevant. And there's a
Okay.
section of the community out there, or Fiji out there, Para, who
Mm.
will who vote on emotion. Eh?
Yes. Yes. Very true.
Yeah,
Very
they
true.
vote on emotion.
Yes.
So if someone tells them, "Oh, you know, we're going to lose all native land,"
Mm.
by then, you know, of course people will get, you know,
Yes. Yes.
this
Very
big
true.
section of the, yeah. So
Especially those
yeah,
who trust you. If they trust you,
yeah,
then they'll start
yeah,
reacting.
yeah.
Mm. Has anybody lost any land at the moment?
I've decided I'm gonna check every Friday, Param, on my Facebook
Yeah,
wall.
do hit me up if anybody has, because
I
it'll be
will.
interesting to see, interesting to bring it forward.
Yeah,
Because obviously, if anybody has lost any land, it'll be, let's see why. It'll be an interesting
yeah.
topic to talk about, and if
Mm.
why, and it's a good time because the election is next year, and they can actually hit hard now, and plan
No,
towards who's going.
everyone. Yeah, I think everyone now, Param, is in agreement that the ownership is not in question. Native
Mm-hmm.
land will always be native land. No one
Mm.
has ever alienated any native land, except for the exchange in Momi, which the Prime Minister talks about, but that was allowed by the Act.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, you know, the ownership of native land is not in question. The issue that came up was the control by ITLTB, weakening the control by not having to give consent. And we've gone
Okay.
over what the government's reasons were to lessen red tape, to
Mm-hmm.
encourage investment. Again, these
Mm.
are things that will benefit the Tokay more than any other community.
Yes.
So, but you know, it suits certain political agendas to be going
Very
whipping
true.
up
Very true.
fear
And why
so
not?
that
I
they can
suppose
get votes.
everybody has a right to speak, and every political party has to gain some sort of a momentum and speed and votes to be the party, and they can always change the law. So today they will say this and they'll win. Tomorrow they might change the law and change it differently. So
That's correct.
politics works that way. It's playing with people's
Yes.
skills sometimes. How people thinks.
Yes.
It's very important. That's how they play
No,
with
the
it.
danger, there's always a danger in this country because of our political history. Eh?
Yes, of
Sometimes
course.
we whip up emotion too much. You
Yes.
know, sometimes some politicians in the past were
Mm-hmm.
whipping up emotion, but after already having planned with military personnel to do a coup. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to whip up emotion to encourage that.
Mm.
That's what's happened in the past. So, of course, in Fiji it has a different context. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can stand up and say whatever you want. Oh, our land is gonna go to, but in Fiji there's always that there's always that danger that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whipping up emotion is actually part of a broader plan.
Mm-hmm.
which is the
Interesting,
military
interesting.
intervention. Yeah, whether officially by the military itself or some faction of it.
Yes, yes,
This is
yes.
not some things we are pulling out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually happened.
It's actually
So
happening. Very true.
any responsible government or police force has to be on the watch out for this. And I remember that this was one of the criticisms from within the coalition in 1999, that there were members of the coalition at the time who were very upset with Mr. Chowdhury that maybe he did not take enough care. When all this talk was going on before the 2000 coup, that maybe he should have taken them a bit more seriously when people were whipping up emotion and stuff, and because he did not, and he kept just pushing on with policy and whatnot, he's just not going to be bothered with and I understand. I understand too. If I was in his position, I know, well, why would I pay attention to Looney Tunes? But there was a failure there, according to others within his coalition, who said no. Yeah, they were Looney Tunes, but they caused big problems. So a responsible government. Unfortunately, that's our history. We have to. The government has to be careful that any whipping up of emotion and fake news and whatever not about native land has in the past gone hand in hand with another plan.
Now, as an observer outsider, we always worry that if anything happens, people say something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. It's like that. People are on the edge. Oh, something is going to happen. Something is going to happen, and the first thing that comes into the head is, don't tell me there's going to be another coup. Can it happen again?
History repeats. Apparently, but the more that we as a society and the more that government policy can go to lessening the risk, then of course the less risk there will be to it happening again. So yeah. But as you've correctly pointed out,
yes.
That's what you've exactly pointed out. Why sometimes like a more vigilant government would jump on things. Some of us sitting outside be like, there's no need to arrest those people. They just no one listens to them. They're a joke. They're just comedians. They're clowns. They're Looney Tunes and whatnot. But others are in different places. They have intel that we don't have. They
true.
are, and we have our history to consider. So a more vigilant or extra vigilant government might think otherwise.
Yes.
Or more an extra vigilant police force might think otherwise because they don't want a repeat of history. Like I said, Farah, it's happened before. And
yes.
and one of the criticisms of Mr. Chowdhury in 2000 from within his own group was he should have listened more, given more serious attention, to the Looney Tunes, as it were, when they were going on about fake news, losing the land, Tokyo losing control. Had he listened more and taken them more seriously, maybe, their government could have responded in a different way. Had consultations or whatnot, which would have been the more definite democratic route rather than, police commissioner. I don't want a coup. I don't want to hear any talk or this rubbish. Start questioning these people. They look suspicious to me because this is the same lot, and the coup could have. Who knows? But you just gotta be unfortunately, our history dictates that there is vigilance and extra vigilance because to us sitting outside it will look like overreaction. Like I've already said, they're just who listens to them? Comedians, they're incompetent. No one's gonna take them seriously. No one in the military is gonna take those fools seriously. But you never know, Baron. Our history says otherwise.
Well, let's hope, and let's just hope and hope and hope. That's the only word we can use, and hope, and we'll just keep with hoping that it never happens and never takes back the country for another 20 years. And
We don't
as
want,
I said,
whatever government, Param, whatever government.
yes,
Like
yes.
you mentioned, Mr. Ngarase, that was a surprise to many because in 2001 elections, the first one that he led SDL to, I was assisting in my mother's party, the Fijian Association Party,
Yeah,
and the Fijian Association and SDL went tooth and nail. Like, they really went for the heart and soul of the Tokay. It was a
yes,
big
yes.
contest between
Yeah.
liberal and conservative forces. And of course, Mr. Ngarase won. But it was a bitter competition and, crash. And it surprised many that in 2012, 2006 when he was deposed and when the charges were brought in 2012, that I would be his counsel. In fact, when they asked me to take the case, I told him up front, I said, sir, I have to, tell you that this may not help you because I was here and the bitter thing and part of it was the whole Fijian holding survey. I have to tell you, up front. And he said, no, I have no issue with it. Carry on. So I'm like, all right, we'll go out firing. So what I'm saying is, we should be against every undemocratic removal of power. It doesn't matter if it's the removal of someone you like in politics or someone you dislike in politics. As a matter of principle, we should stand there. But after it has happened, Param, and according to law, the law of revolutions, once the two things are satisfied, they have effective control of the country, and once the majority of the country endorses them, and this, Fiji First has been endorsed twice in general elections, they are lawful.
Yes.
So their removal would be unlawful. Their removal by a military coup would be unlawful.
True.
So it doesn't matter whether you agree with them, disagree with them.
Move ahead.
Move
Move forward. Vote another government. There's so many policies out
totally
there. So many politicians coming
and
up. There's new policies.
Yes, and 4 years is a very short time, Param. I can't even believe that next year is 2022 and there's another election due. 2018 to me is just like yesterday.
I just wanted to make a point clear here. For a statement, as I always reiterated in the beginning, that it's saying, Tupou, you were bribed for coming into this show. Why are you sounding so pro-government? Now, I'd like to, in answer to that question, I think I can answer the question, is I don't know Tupou. I don't know what she does. All I know is basically whatever history it is, and I do not wish to know her background or her foreground. All I wish to know is what is her interest in politics and her interest specifically towards the country. And my questions are always around that. And I always say I don't have any favorites in the government. Everybody's a personal. Everybody's got a character. I'm a filmmaker. That's how I see it as. To me, everybody's a character. And everybody plays a character. So if you ask me why I interview people, and if I'm not interviewing Sitiveni Rambuka or if I'm not interviewing Benny Marama, hey, welcome to the board. I love every characters. I write stories, and I can write a wonderful story if I know my character. So I have approached all the other people as I will be approaching Chaudhry, I'll be approaching Rambuka. Hey, every characters, this is your part to play, and I'm here to direct you. So that's all I say to people. Tupou to me is a character. Tupou to me is a personality. Oh, unlike any other people I bring to this forum here, I don't want to know them. I just understand the characters, and I just bring the best out of the character. That's my job. So please be mind and be wary of what I'm doing here. It's for the betterment and to get a good character out of even Tupou. She may be the next Prime Minister, and they say, Param, you got the best out of me. You never know. Or similarly Linda, or similarly any other people that I've interviewed. So, it's a good healthy situation here. It's a stage, and I think everybody are actors. And at the end of the day, when they go back, they smile in their families. They are people. They're different personality. And I hope you agree with that, Tupou.
Yes, totally. And Param, this is a good example, that question, is how maybe because we're so small, people personalize things, personalize issues.
Yes.
Like you're coming from a perspective, you're used to politics in Australia, it's a big stage. And that is my background as well. That's, I don't personalize it. It's more on the issues and policies. If I disagree with someone, I don't make it a personal issue. I disagree with their policies, or I think that they're not competent enough to do this, that, and the other. But
and
I
just
don't
tell
go
them,
and make
just
false
don't vote for them.
accusations. Exactly.
Just don't vote for them.
There's no need, but exactly.
If you don't like a film, don't watch it. That's how I see it as.
Yes.
Stop the film. It's a boring film.
Yeah.
Why watch it? Why spend your money on it? That's how life simple is. Well, look, Tupou, it's been nice talking to you, and sorry to hold you too long. Sorry for all the interruptions that we had in the beginning, but it was a healthy situation, and I hope, I wish you all the best. I hope, I wish you all the best.
Take care, Param. It's good to meet you online.
And on the end,
to speak with you.
yes, on the end, I always let the forum to the person.
Yes.
To sign off with your words, whatever you would like to say to the future people that will be watching this program, or maybe getting some benefit out of it, or maybe not watching your film, perhaps not liking your character, not liking my character. The judgment is purely upon them. So I'll let you sign off. I'll let you say a few words before I sign off.
Well, thank you, Param, for having me on your program. That is very kind of you to invite me. I just want to say to all Fijians who are here in Fiji, please listen to the Ministry of Health and Dr. Fong and his team, and of course the vaccination drive that's being done by Dr. Pillay and her team, and all of the doctors and nurses in Fiji. Please give them support in whatever way you can, and the biggest way we can support them is by following the health protocols and getting vaccinated. And as for the elections next year, please, Fijians, I urge you to look at the policies of each party and look at the leaders, and you can determine. You've had a good time now to look at all of the leaders of the political parties. Currently, there are 6, I believe, and each party will have a different set of policies and a different leader. But as I said shortly after we were registered, there are only 3 points of view really right now in Fiji, and that is the Fiji First Party and their style of governance. Like as I was telling Param, there are some prime ministers who may not have as much patience to consult. They'll just get back to Suva after hearing complaints. They'll say, right, let's try and fix this, and this is the policy, this is the legislation we want. Then there are some prime ministers who can wait a little bit more while consultations go for another few months and whatnot. You decide, and you decide what the political leaders are saying. The second political view is that of SODELPA, backed by NFP, and the other 3 parties there with them. And we have a third different point of view. And I'm very happy that most of our policy statements have been adopted by the government or considered by them. Some have been implemented. We're happy about those things, that we can help in some positive change. We don't have to get the credit for it, but we want the voters in this country to think about these serious issues when they go to elections, and don't let your emotions get to the better of you. You know, with racists and racism thrown around and all of those things. It's not going to bring anything to you in the next 4 years. The only thing that's going to make a difference in your life in the next 4 years is what legislative program the government will bring. I think Param, I've said more than enough. We're already annoying my political opponents. They're coming up with all sorts of defamatory things. So I think I should stop there.
Okay, well, Lisa Bunavinaka, and thank you for your time, precious time, and hope you stay safe in this COVID-stricken place at the moment, the suburb you're in. And we wish you all the best with your party and good luck. And if you need to reach out on any issues with me to discuss anything further, you're always welcome. You've got a character to play, and I always love different characters. And thank you for you playing your part on this today on Real Talk. It's been a pleasure talking to you, madam. And all the best for you.
Very much.
You take care. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into this program. And as usual, as I say, that there's always new things in this horizon, and there's always new parties. And if you something as Tupou has said, if you don't like it, don't vote. And I think I reiterate that again by saying, I re-emphasize by saying, if you don't like, don't vote them. And it's very important, because if you get a good party, you'll have a good country, and you won't be able to deal with all the things that comes along with it. With that, on a short note, I'll leave you, and thank you for joining in. I hope, and I apologize for all those little tricks and situations we went through with the technical issues. It happens. Nevertheless, we are back here and we've finished this today. Enjoy, be safe, and stay tuned, and do like and share this feed amongst your family and friends just to create awareness. And I'll see you again on certain dates on this program, on this channel here, which is Fiji TV Australia. So create and send messages to your family and friends, and do like and subscribe to this space on YouTube or here on Facebook. Thank you, big Bula Vinaka, and apologies and for anything that has gone wrong today. And as I said, the views were today discussed here with the views of the interviewee. All the best, stay safe, and Nisamade.